Oh, there we go. We'll just wait for people to come in if they want to or not, whatever.
Nice.
We're getting what is it? I saw we're getting Horizon Forbidden West, the complete edition on PC.
Yeah. Have you played that?
I haven't. I've been waiting. I played the first Horizon Zero Dawn right at the weekend before the new one came out. So like I was like, you know what, I gotta play it. So and I liked it. It was good. I probably didn't 100% it. There was probably also a little side quest that I missed, but outside of that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game.
I love those games. I'm a huge fan. I played Forbidden West in the expansion when it came out. Yeah, they're great. They're great. Oh boy.
There's all sorts of fun stuff. Man, this Pokemon story is just gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be the gift that keeps on giving. For sure. I mean, it's pretty wild, like how much it blew up. Like I had this on my radar because I knew it was coming on Game Pass, and I keep an eye on Game Pass.
You know what? I bought it. I paid for it. I bought it for Steam Deck because I forgot it was on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then after I paid for it, I opened up my Game Pass app and I was like, "There's power." Crap. I was like, "Man," "All right, well, fine. At least now I have it on my Steam Deck. I don't have to."
Yeah. What's up, Rolls? How you doing, man?
But I love the mechanics. So one of the mechanics, and I'll talk about it more in the show, but like anything can be a pal.
Okay.
Including other humans. So other trainers in the world, you could throw the pal ball or whatever.
Yeah.
And capture them, and they become your slave. It even tells you it's like pal balls are only for pals, not humans, but they do work. But it's a little unethical. It even says that in the description when you throw it. And sure enough, they become like indentured servants. If anything that's in a pal ball is a pal, so including other humans.
That feels real early access to me.
Oh man, it's so good. It's so weird.
Oh man.
We're doing well, Rolls. We're doing well. It's a good week so far. There's some interesting news. We're gonna try to keep it nice and tight for an hour today.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, we got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth drops tonight.
Very
excited about that.
Yeah,
I'm got too many things on my fire.
There's so much on my plate, but like it's gonna happen. Like I'm gonna, It's looking good. It's looking real good.
Yeah, I think the reviews are out and they've been real solid. Do you use OpenCritic for like tracking reviews that come in? I really liked OpenCritic a lot better than Metacritic.
You know what? I haven't. I know about it. But,
give that one a shot. It's I like the way that it kind of frames success a little bit better, and the way it aggregates is nice.
Like a Dragon has got a 90 on there. Tekken 8 is looking fantastic.
Tekken 8 looks amazing, and I'm telling myself I shouldn't get it because I'm not going to invest the time to actually get good at that game. But man,
yeah, I know. I've got the FOMO, and I want to drop it on the cab back there, and I'm just like, I'm going to pick it up, but I'm going to wait for maybe that first 20% drop.
I'm feeling that way about the new Prince of Persia too.
Yeah,
I was listening to a podcast about it today, and man, it sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, and those are my type of games, like good 2D, Metroidvania 2D. Jump in and just play it. I don't have to deal with like wonky mechanics. It's just run slash.
You have to learn a million systems.
Yeah. The Tomb Raider remasters come out in a couple weeks too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's a few games that have been kind of pushed back that are now kind of coming out. Like Suicide Squad is coming out, which is
we'll
an interesting one. Yeah, this is an interesting game because I feel like that one was restructured a few times.
It was, and like I just don't know. I don't know if like you can revise a game deep enough to make that game what people want it to be. You know what I mean? Like, where it started.
Hey, what's going on, Kim? Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's jump on in. We'll get the ball rolling here. I will where to go. Boom, pause that, and we will kick this off. Let's go. Hey everyone, happy Friday Eve. It is my out of the entire week, Thursdays are my favorite days.
No kidding.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I'm saying it. Love it.
Yeah, it's Thursdays are one of those days where in my head it's that funky ADHD mentality where I'm always looking ahead, but I'm like always behind. So Thursdays feel like it's precursor to Friday, which is the last day before the weekend, and Fridays always feel good because it's a Friday, but Thursdays feel extra good knowing that tomorrow's Friday. It's like weird. It's like I don't know. It's like that over calculation. You're like calculating 2 steps ahead, and
that's the same way that like Sunday evenings, even though you're still like off, feel the worst, right? Like it's
right.
Like, no, this is the worst feeling. I know
it's the worst feeling because you know that you got to go to work on Monday, so you can't even enjoy Sunday. Like you wake up on Sunday, and you're like, oh man, I've only got one more day, and like you can't even enjoy the day because you're already thinking the fact that it's the end of the weekend.
Yeah,
and it just started. So.
Yeah, speaking of it, just started.
What's going on, Eddie, buddy? Man, I haven't seen you on here for a while. Yeah, so I know that you've been playing it. I know that you've been playing with a buddy of mine, and I know that he's been playing it. And I've heard nothing but good things, man. Like it's a weird
we'll
game.
About it tonight.
Yeah, let's kick it off because that seems to be the main story. I mean, I think it launched right after last week. And the train just hit, and it was one of those games. There's been a few Pokemon-esque games that have come out over the years, and I can't even list them in my head. But there's another one, the one with the search of the T, that came out I think last year or whatever.
Oh, Temtem.
There we go, Temtem. Yeah. And there's a couple of other ones that are like in that vein. And but this one seems to be the one that's gotten the most like interesting traction.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if I remember when I saw the trailer about a year ago or so on one of the what's going on, man. I remember seeing the trailer. I think it was on a Nintendo Direct, right? I think it was a Nintendo Direct Palworld, if I remember correctly. They talked about it was one of the.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought it was on a Game Pass thing because it hit Game Pass.
Yeah, it did eventually. Like, let's see if it was Nintendo Direct.
I mean, it's so interesting, right? Because like there's always been a lot of like Pokemon sort of like inspired stuff because it's such a good formula, right? But this one just hit, man, and it's crazy how many people are playing in this game.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking about something else, but yeah. So the company Pocket Pair is the name of the company that's making this game, and I'm gonna play this trailer because this is wild. Like it's just a wild game. The mechanics are wild. If you think you know your Pokemon, you do and you don't. I've clocked in about 70 hours in it already. Man, that's wild. Awesome. It's wild.
Good for you.
I'm
out here putting in the work.
Right. You gotta tell us how it is, and I want to put in that amount of time because it's the mechanics are just crazy to me.
Even the music.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is meant to give you that like, oh look, Pokemon in a Pokemon world, they're all running around. Look, there's freaking knockoff Gyarados. It's like great value version of Gyarados.
I mean, I could say as someone who's not a huge Pokemon fan, I played one Pokemon game in my whole life. You could put this in front of me and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Pokemon.
Oh yeah, that's a legendary right there, right? Okay, and now you're like, wait, what?
And then it's suddenly Fortnite.
It's suddenly Fortnite. And catching them. Okay, so you've got the Fortnite slide. You got backflips, and there you got your. And then it's like Monster Hunter World for a second. There, you're like shooting them out.
Yeah.
And then Breath of the Wild, freaking gliding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like that's the thing. Like all the monsters are very Pokemon resonant or like reminiscent, but like the gameplay feels like Arc and like all the survival games that like
Yep.
have people hooked for hours and hours and hours. Yeah,
And now we've got like cozy world builder with gardening.
Build your own little cottage, your castle cottage.
And then you've got now infrastructure with slave labor making guns. You saw that? They're like, hey, just making, my pal making war crimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, we know what those Pokemon were up to all this time. No way was that an ethical operation.
Oh, we've got Team Rocket. No, what is that? Again, if you didn't know Pokemon and you hadn't, if someone had played you hand get someone a Pokemon game and then show them this trailer, I was like, oh, this is Pokemon.
Yeah, were those 5 people like? Are they like gym champions? Is that like?
I think so. Again, I haven't played enough to know. I just jumped in, created my character. I was playing it on my Steam Deck.
Huh.
I'm just getting used. I'm in the punching trees phase.
Interesting.
Freaking Gatling gun.
So since you played it so much, Sakurai, like you'll have to tell me, like, how does this run? Does it run well? Like this seems like it runs pretty well for you on your machine, Joe?
It runs well on the Steam Deck.
No kidding.
Yeah, I am completely floored on how that's kind of, I think, what it is, right? Here's this company that does a knockoff idea. It's like a hodgepodge of all of these different ideas, but then like, wait a minute, this should run jank. And it doesn't. It runs well.
Well, because it's a small company too, right? Like.
But it's an ambitious idea. You've added all of these mechanics. Like you've got evolutions, and you've got like there are people doing like selective breeding already. They've got a whole like IV like statistics already. They've pretty much taken the entire mechanic of like Pokemon and like the way that the like stats and structure and mating and creating works, and they've already got it in the engine. Like this is like game. This is version 1.0, and they've already got that in the game.
I think I saw Tommy, who was on the show a couple episodes ago. He was talking about it on Facebook and saying like they didn't have like rigs when they started. They started building it in Unity. Then some person made them move it over to Unreal when they joined the team. Like there's tons of like stuff that they were like figuring out on the fly. Crazy to have that much success on something like that. That's awesome.
Runs great on my girlfriend's laptop. It's like 3 years old. Yeah, man, that's great. And again, I think that's the sweet spot for PC gaming right now. Is you're aiming for people's hardware that's about 3 years old. With the cost of video cards and graphics cards and graphics cards and GPUs and all of that. There's just too much. But also we've got things like mini PCs that are out right now. What is it? There's a couple companies out there, Mini Forum and GMK Tech. I mean, you could pick up $300, $400. You pick up an entire PC with a Ryzen APU, which is kind of like.
I mean, not to mention the Steam Decks, right? And
Steam Decks. Yeah, but if you wanted a desktop, it runs. They give you a license of Windows, and it's got the APU is more than enough to play games at like 1080p or 720p, and you can throw pretty much every game at it. And that's incredible. So we're at a kind of a weird golden age of like PC hardware, and then with esports and all of these games like Fortnite and. They want the accessibility. We're no longer going for like, hey, we need the top tier video card to run our game and only the top tier, because they want everyone playing it. And how do you do that? Is you make sure that you target lower tier hardware.
Yeah. Right. So, yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, this game is interesting. I couldn't tell you how I feel about it yet because I just started, but
do you usually like these kinds of games? This kind of like survival sort of like game?
It takes a while for me to get into it, but when I do get sucked into one, I can go. Like I will 100% kind of like go into it. And I see a lot of people in the developer side of things. Like, of course, the controversy early on, by the way, was that this game came out, it landed, it stuck the landing. Everyone was like, what's going on? Here's this game, came out of nowhere, and it launched, and it's actually pretty good. What's going on here? And then the controversy hit that people were saying, oh, this is a full ripoff of Pokemon. Well, like, yes, it is kind of, but then the accusations came that they stole assets. Like they had gone in and taken Pokemon from the games and just like changed them a tiny bit. And that started this like big online, like, oh, these guys are offs and all this and the other. Mm-hmm. And the main vocal person that was kind of accusing them came out and was like, actually, I don't have any evidence on this. And then you had Pocket Pair come out and show like models on them building it and like showing like the structure and the skeletal structure and all that. And then a lot of the 3D artists were coming out and like, these don't match any of them. Like it would take too much work. It would take just as much work as making one from scratch than taking models that don't belong to you and trying to bring them in and remodify them.
Interesting.
So it doesn't mean that one of them isn't modeled after like Pikachu,
Sure.
visually, or a Gyarados.
Clearly artistic inspiration, right?
Completely artistic inspiration.
I mean, I think like the other thing I'd heard was that like there was like some AI tools or AI like artwork or imagery that was used in it too, which obviously that's super controversial right now for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And that came hot on the heels of, I don't know if you kept up on this new free to play shooter, the finals. That is kind of an interesting controversy right now too, because they're using AI voice work instead of voice actors in some specific instances.
I heard about that. They said that some of the actors, some of the like 3 out of the like 6 characters or whatever, the voices are AI because they're not completely recorded. So, but they're going to add them.
I think Palworld hit, and there was some of that conversation happening too. But I mean, it doesn't seem to have hurt the game at all. It is currently the #1 selling game in the world on Steam.
Not only that, there was someone who completely rigged the models. They were trying to accuse Palworld of students. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, there was there's this bias, which, look, man, I understand your people's passion and fandom wanting to like go up to bat for Pokemon and Nintendo, but I think fans of the show, and Pedro used to say it best. I'm like, stop protecting corporations.
Dude.
Like, there's no need to. Nintendo has the biggest lawyers on the planet. Don't need defending from the fan base. But also, a game like should hold Pokemon and Nintendo accountable. Look, here's a small team that just made a game that gave everyone that likes Pokemon, it scratched the majority of the itches that everyone's been asking for. So it's not.
No, I mean, there's something to like reflect on here for Game Freak and Nintendo for sure. Be like, hey, maybe we should push the envelope a little bit more with this property that we have. Yeah, yes, I did see that.
Yeah, so we've got and that's a good good segue to that. So to kind of bring that up. So yes, there is the Pokemon company has come out and said something about this, which is interesting to get a company like Nintendo to actually like make a statement about this.
They don't do that a lot.
They don't. They tend to like just kind of sit back and then do a takedown and be done with it. They don't usually ever put out any presser. But they pretty much saying that they're gonna investigate it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got Palworld sold over 8 million copies in less than 6 days.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the stats right now, and like right now, the top 5 most played. You've got PUBG on Steam is 105,000 people right now playing it. Baldur's Gate 3, 140,000. Dota 2, 250,000. Counter-Strike, 400,000. Palworld, over 1 million. Currently playing. Twice the second place game.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's huge.
That's a huge thing. And like, I mean, it's easy to want to hate on the company, you know, that might be doing something unethical like this, but like also if someone has to, you got to play that kind of unlawful neutral kind of thing where like maybe sometimes it takes a little bit of villainy to get the companies that we love to kind of make a change. Because
and I think there's like 2 separate parts of that conversation too, right? Where it's like, one, like it's okay to be critical of like stuff that might seem unethical or weird, but like you don't have to like do it in a way that's like you said, kind of white knighting for Game Freak.
Right. Yeah. The Game Freak and Nintendo don't need people to protect them. They're
not your friends.
They're not your friends. Like you go to bat to them and they're just like, yeah, okay, but they would throw you in the fire at any point to fuel the money machine. So so as not a Pokemon fan, I'm hearing this is a fan. So again, this is not Pokemon. Like,
no, it's not.
It's a game called Palworld, but it's got a lot of the mechanics and undertones and feeling of Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, if Pokemon is basically a series about like finding, capturing, and then making cute little guys fight, like this does that, and a lot of the character designs look really similar to the Pokemon designs. But it's not a Pokemon game at all. They have nothing to do with Pokemon. It has game mechanics and ideas that have nothing to do with Pokemon. It's just like Pokemon's so huge that everyone looks at Palworld and like everyone's seen Pikachu before. So you're like, wait a minute, I know that guy.
Yeah, I mean, why complain when someone? That's the thing. But fans fans are protective of the things that they love, right? Like, I mean, we could apply this to anything, right? Like, if you're a huge Star Wars fan, or you're a huge, even let's take one character, you're a huge Spider-Man fan, and then here comes another company that makes a character that's very derivative to Spider-Man, right? Like, here's this, like, I don't know, a Possum Man, and he swings around the city, and his outfit is gray. It's a gray Spider-Man looking outfit, but it's gray. And he bitten by a radioactive possum and whatever else. And all of a sudden, like, he puts out a video game. They put out a video game of this thing, this character, and it's pretty much a carbon copy of Spider-Man on Sony's platform, except it's this Possum Man. And everyone's like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, this game does things that maybe people had complaints about from the Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
And people are like, this is a pretty good game, man. Like, yeah. I don't have a love for this Possum guy, but here's this game with great mechanics. Sure. But then all of a sudden the Spider-Man fans are like, oh, just rip off of Spider-Man. I'm like, yeah, but maybe this should go, hey, instead of just making a sequel that feels like a carbon copy, maybe someone should have listened to the fans and went what they wanted.
And the thing about your example is that kind of thing happens all the time also, right? Like DC had, like, what was it, Sideways or something back in the 90s or the 2000s that was obviously a Spider-Man ripoff. Like,
yeah.
All the time.
It happens all the time, and creators will go back and forth. Like a good example, I mean, Deadpool is a ripoff of Deathstrike. I mean, you've got Wade Wilson and Slade. I mean, it's like the same freaking name. Like, everything about him is the exact same character, except that he was a parody when he was created at Marvel. And which one is the most popular one now? Like, people like Deathstroke.
This is what it comes down to: is if this wasn't a million people playing it right now, no one would care. No one would care. It
would just be a game that would fall into the wayside. It's like, oh, here's another Pokemon ripoff, and move on.
Because, like you said earlier in the show, right? Like, there's lots of Pokemon ripoffs.
Yeah, Temtem is one that's out there. Like that's I mean, if anyone's not familiar with that one, I'll pull that one up too. But like, here we've got Temtem, which came out. It's out. You can go play it. And it's it is a Pokemon game, but like, there's no I mean, Temtem had 4 years ago when they had an opening launch trailer for it, and then the official release for 1.0 was a year ago. It just goes to show. If someone told you that, that logo is Pokemon. Like,
100%.
If someone told you this wasn't Pokemon,
and it's a very distinct art style, right? But like, I don't know, if Game Freak was like, hey, we want to try something different and made something that looked like more like this, I'd be like, yeah, that's Pokemon. Which, sidebar, have you watched Pokemon Concierge yet?
No, I haven't. I need to sit down and do it. I need to do it. I've heard nothing but good things.
Very cute. It's very, very cute.
I mean, that's Pokemon, man. Look, tall grass, Pokemon following you. Yeah. But again, it didn't hit. It's not an open world multiplayer aspect. So that's the difference. Is like, if this is, I don't know about it, or it's not that big of a deal. But this new game has got, the controversy is you added guns. Yeah. I think that's the big one, and we'll talk about it.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I do think that is an interesting wrinkle in the, like, protectiveness about it.
Yeah.
Because Pokemon is such a, like, cherished, like, sort of childhood property, right? Like, you chuck some bazookas in there and suddenly, I don't know if I want my 9-year-old playing this, right? Or
it's
like, that's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, if someone, let's say this was Pokemon, but then all of a sudden, like, someone pulls out a freaking, like, a 45 and shoots Pikachu in the face, and you can shoot them. You can shoot these pals to weaken them, but if your weapon is too strong, you'll kill them. And not only that, you can carve them up and use them. You can eat them. You can, like, take their resources. That's like that's already. But I mean, all you're doing is you're playing towards the idea that, like, wait a minute, in the world of Pokemon, even the descriptions of certain Pokemon. What's the one?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Pokedex entries are pretty wild.
Yeah, there's one. What's the one? The duck one that carries around the green onion.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a particular Pokemon that's got a green onion. He's constantly got like a leak.
Yeah, I know that. I know the one you're talking about.
And in his description on the Pokedex, it says, like, he's considered a delicacy. Like, he's good.
That's why he's got that green onion on him. He's ready to go.
Like, he literally brings his own freaking garnish. Like the creators of Pokemon know what they're doing. But in the world of Pokemon, you don't ever slaughter them.
I mean, there's also though like the Pokedex entries. Like I pulled a couple up here. Like for Mimikyu, his Pokedex entry says like a gust of wind revealed what hides under the Pokemon's rag to a passing trainer who went home and died painfully that very night. That's it. There's some grown up stuff in the Pokemon games for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's the ghost Pokemon are created by dead Pokemon, like Pokemon that have passed away. They become a Ghastly. They become a it's wild, and a lot of that stuff is kind of more towards the Japanese market. They really like that kind of stuff. That kind of like manga and that kind of style and creepiness is totally at home in Japan.
Yeah.
So, but it's just not talked about here in the US. It's not as mainstream, but the Pokemon fans know.
It's just for YouTube video lists.
Yeah, right. But here we are. Here's this game that puts front and center everything that you know probably happens in the world of Pokemon, which is one, you're going to have hunters that go and shoot Pokemon. Two, you're going to harvest them and use them for slave labor. If you can train a Pokemon to do a task, which you already know they do. I mean, you have a whole series. This the Concierge show on Netflix shows Pokemon being used as odd jobs. Like they'll teach like a Machamp to like be a construction worker, or they hire Pokemon to be construction workers. So like, isn't that cheap labor? Like, do you think in the world of Pokemon they pay that Machamp money like human money? No, they probably just
pay him in bananas, dude.
Yeah, they pay him in like freaking like Poke Chow or whatever, and they're it's weird. It's like you live this world of like you live in this world of like subservitude. You've got these like autonomous animals that you can like teach to be slave labor, and they're just happy because they're companions.
This is what we need. We need clearer representation of the gig economy in our Pokemon games. Let's be more honest.
That's exactly it. And so this game does that. So in this game, the mechanics include you can kill them, shoot them, skin them, use their resources.
Okay.
And one of the other cards,
Monster Huntery.
Yeah. Yep. But in any other game, and in Minecraft, you can do that. This isn't something new on Minecraft. Like in Minecraft, there are pigs. You can kill the pigs. You can cook the pigs, make the bacon, and eat the pigs, and then all of a sudden you've got food, and that's health. So like all of that is already like a circle of life dynamic is already in a game as simple as Minecraft. So the world of Pokemon, if these are the animals. And just because they've got a cute name and you can capture them and use them to fight doesn't mean that they can't be eaten. You've got chicken pals in this game, and they're chickens. They're just chickens. There we go. Thank you, Farfetch'd. That's the name. See, I didn't want to be the one to go and Google it. Thank you. Yes, Farfetch'd, and that's one. I mean, he's literally food in the world of Pokemon, but yet you can have one as a friend. So, and his entire attack is he beats you with his leek as a weapon. So I'm just like. Interesting. Like it just they never talk about the idea that they're food in the show.
And then that's right. He evolves into Surfetched with the
and the Pokemon doesn't say anything about Garnish, but that is a popular internet meme. Oh, it is. Okay, so there we go. So headcanon is kind of what I did. But yes, I mean,
which that's like 2/3 of like these games, right? When you're talking about fans defending things, it's mostly headcanon. Right.
That's a big one, man. So yeah, this is one of those games. And again, one more mechanic that we talked about pre the show, but other trainers can be captured in this game.
See, that's so wild to me. That's so wild to me.
Other trainers can be captured. That's what's wild. So like, I
mean, can you imagine like just rolling around as Ash, and then suddenly the Pokeball gets you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, let's see if I can find it. I just want to find it for it. Yeah, so, and again, I'm gonna the person Zach Scott Games is the person that I'm showing here.
A second. Oh my God, you did it.
Oh, only 14%. Why is he trying to attack me? This is not working.
You're wasting your.
So there's like a death mode, and then you capture them.
It says a 14%.
So is this PvP?
Rate. Oh, 45. No, oh, I got him. I got a villager.
Oh, that's an NPC.
I got a villager. Captured human, it says.
Bruh.
I captured him. He's mine. He's going to work on my base.
Certainly, this is a bug. What?
No, it's not a bug. I got him. Get him.
Yeah, this feels very early access to me, dude.
Then I have a thug working for me. That's pretty cool. Oh, he's back. Okay, I can try again.
If I see you attack him in a second, oh my god, you did it.
I love it.
Oh,
I just
14%.
that's wild. So yeah, so here we've got a game that basically, in the world of Pokemon, I mean, yes, the Pokeballs have been designed not to capture humans, but I mean, let's be real here. Okay, let's be real. Do you think in the world of Pokemon, someone hasn't like hacked or messed with a Pokeball of some way, shape, or form?
I mean, we know Pokemon's got villains. We know there's lots of villains in the world of Pokemon. We know people are trying all kinds of crazy stuff.
I mean, this is the world of Pokemon is so strange to me. You obviously have cops in crime. They talk about it.
Yep.
You've got villains that are pretty nefarious, like want to take over the world kind of thing.
Real nefarious. Yeah, straight
but
up.
Yet
Yeah.
this is also a world that all of that is known, but yet parents allow 12-year-olds to go pick their starting animal and then go travel the countryside by themselves to become trainers. You honestly think there's some like awful, nefarious, like weird human trafficking ring that didn't modify Pokeballs to capture?
That's all it is, man.
Dark. But yes, that is this world. The world of PAL, the Palworld game is this. It is everything. All the dark thought you ever had about Pokemon is in this game.
It'll be really interesting to see how what kind of holding power this game has, right? Because it's obviously it's early access, right? And
yes.
I haven't seen the roadmap, so I'm not really sure what their like plan
Baldur's
is.
Baldur's Gate 3 was early access.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, early access isn't a bad thing.
No, but that's what's great about this game is like it comes out. They can constantly say that it's early access, and they're just going to keep adding features and anything that people request or access or whatever, it'll just be added. So this is smart. This is like
I think the thing that they've got to watch out for, right, is they're a small studio.
Yeah.
And they now have a huge audience that I'm sure way outpaces what they were ready to like be interacting with, right? And with that kind of spotlight, it just becomes tough, right, to like manage all those expectations. So I mean, I think I wish them the best, but it's definitely it'll be interesting to see how they're able to sustain after this huge first boom.
Right. I mean, I don't know where we're going to go with this, how it's going to transpire. Good luck to Pocket Pair. Ambition, you are flying really close to the sun.
Yeah, not lacking for ambition for sure.
Yeah, and you pulled it off. I mean, just looking at that gameplay, I mean, that is already way. I remember early gameplay of things like PUBG or Fortnite was way jankier than that, and here we've got a whole game that there's already like fighting mechanics, capturing mechanics, stats, all of that is already in the game and functioning at 1.0. So
what has what has your feed been reaction wise to this game? Because like mine's been all over the place. Like
it's back and forth.
Like loving it, and then I've seen people that are just like, this is janky and dumb. I don't get it. And like, it's like one or the other. Like I'm going to see a lot of both.
Here's the thing. Also,
wait, hang on. Time out. Is that a tortilla blanket behind you?
Yes, it is. It's my tortilla blanket. Sometimes I'm cold in here. But yeah, it's not just a stained blanket. It's literally a tortilla blanket.
I guess that is the alternative. My guy just showed up on stream with a dirty blanket.
Yeah, it is a giant tortilla blanket for sure.
That's extremely good. Love it.
No, so this is interesting. This game is it's got that like new vibe feel, like it's a lot of old heads. People my age and older are really going to be negative about things like this because one, it's like, oh, it's a cash grab, or oh, it's monetizing, or oh, it's whatever, or it's just a jank or whatever the case may be. But me personally, now I've been very vocal about this on the show. Is I'm 42, and I don't hate Fortnite. I don't. I have 2 kids that play it. Both of my kids have a subscription to the Fortnite crew. They play it. They enjoy it. The idea of Fortnite and the monetization seems skeezy, but you know what, man? Like, it is a game that they enjoy. They play with their friends. They have a community. They add enough content on a weekly basis to keep the game fresh. They've introduced my kids to like music and random dances and pop culture that they would have never heard. They all of a sudden this random character shows up and they're like, who's that? And then they go and look it up, and all of a sudden they're like watching episodes of some random old show because that character is now a skin in Fortnite. Like it's it's interesting to me that people really want to hate on it, but like this is a game, and I've talked about it on the show. It's everything I remember as a kid grabbing my action figures. Like if I had my Ninja Turtles and I had my He-Man and my G.I. Joe, like, and I played with them in my sandbox, they were all interacting together and, you know, villains and heroes and whatever else in my head, make believe. And here's this game, Fortnite, that gives you the ability to dress up and, you know, you can have Batman and Master Chief and Kratos and Lara Croft and freaking, I mean, you name the character, they've got a skin, and freaking Goku running around on a team together, doing heists or building or, you know, whatever the theme of the month, because the game has also evolved from a shooter to like building to, you've also got Lego in there now.
Like
so like
platform now.
It's a whole platform. So a game like this has all of those elements, and there's going to be hate on it because it feels like, oh, this is for the Fortnite group. But guess what, folks? That this is what's selling. And this is what's keeping gaming going. My kids want to play this. They don't want to play some of these AAA title games because they don't have $60 to spend, but they can install a free-to-play game and ask me for $20 every other week for some skins. So
the last thing I'll say about Palworld, and kind of to your point about like how are the kids interacting with it versus like the kind of old cranks like us. Like, I mean, I think like there's a writer I really like, Patrick Klepek. He's been in the industry a long time. Wrote for Waypoint for a long time at Vice and now writes for Remap. But he has a newsletter called Crossplay, and he went out and talked to a bunch of 8 to 10-year-olds about Palworld just to get
no way
on it. So I definitely recommend checking him out. He's on Substack. His newsletter is called Crossplay. But that's Patrick Klepek. Check that. It's a good story. It's a good story. It has some really cute quotes from the kids. It's a nice little window into like, oh yeah, you know what? Sometimes when you're in your 30s, you're really grouchy about stuff. And if you're 9, you're less grouchy about it.
Yeah. So
he's got a really thoughtful piece that kind of engages with that stuff. Like, there's some really interesting things in there about like, you know, why do our verbs always gravitate towards shoot in video games? Why don't we use other verbs, right? Like, so like it's thoughtful, but it's also a really cute piece. Definitely recommend checking it out.
Let's see here. I'm gonna pull that up. So so go check it out. It was Crossplay. Patrick, this is his starting page here. But if you're not familiar with the Substack, it's a newsletter that you subscribe to. So basically, you kind of sign in.
Yeah, but you can say no thanks if you don't want to subscribe. You just like read
no thanks, and here we are. It's basically like if you're not familiar with how these newsletters things are, it's almost like your own personal website of sort. It's kind of like, you know, any news site. It would be like a Kotaku or a Gizmodo or whatever. You basically create these stories and you dump them out here, and they kind of create this own like aggregated thing. If you pull up, it's a feed. So, but so the kids are playing Pokemon with guns, and here's what they think. So go check out that story. I'm gonna take a look at it, and it's pretty cool. I showed my own daughter the trailer yesterday while we were lounging in bed before school, and she went ooh ah right until the gun showed up, and she yelped, "Why are they shooting the cute animals?" She did not show much interest in playing, but that was before she realized you could build a hot tub for the creatures to relax in. So it's like, I mean, if you give guns in the game, but the guns are an option because they also give you enough other parts in the game. So it's almost that idea where like,
that's one of the interesting things about this game is because it was always pitched, even as it was in development, as Pokemon with guns, but it's actually it's more like Pokemon survival, right?
Yeah, it's like it's Lord of the Flies Pokemon Island. Because it's like they put you on this island with all these these pals, Pokemon pals, but then you can do whatever you want. You can capture them and then use them to build a nice farm, or you can make weapons of mass destruction in a factory and just be like, it's like you choose your morality.
Just like real life.
Just like real life. That's exactly it. So it's interesting. Keep your eyes on it. And it was the big story this week. My feed has not been without it. So I've heard it's compared to Ark Survival. Yep, very much so. Very much so. It's got a lot of those elements, a lot of the Ark Survival elements. It's got the Pokemon elements. It's got Fortnite. It's got a little PUBG. It's got a little bit of sprinkles of all the things that you want from all of the popular free-to-play style games, and the Pokemon game everyone wanted, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
So
seems like it.
Yep. So go check it out. It is on the Steam Deck. So it does play. So if you've got one, load it up on there. It's
also
cool.
on Game Pass. So if you have that,
it's also on Game Pass. So it's free to play on Game Pass. So go download it on Xbox or I think you could download.
Give it a shot this week. And I'll report back. I'll be curious.
Yeah,
to get more into it.
And it is crossplay.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So you playing it on one and playing it on Steam does work. So there is crossplay. So that's really cool. All right, so let's talk about the other big story here. And this one came out, it was today, but it's kind of the biggest story in gaming right now. And man, this one's a sad one because I don't know how I feel about this one. I mean, I don't feel good about it, of course. But so Microsoft had 1,900 layoffs at Activision Blizzard and Xbox employees. Now, we're going to talk about why. So there's some big reasons why this is happening, and this doesn't bode well.
So before we jump in on this specific thing, just as context, right? We are 25 days into 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already had a big round of layoffs from Unity, about 1,800 people.
That's right.
Twitch laid off 500 people.
Discord
laid off almost 200 people.
Yep.
We got, I think Thunderful was another game developer. It was around 100 people. There's been, I think the last count I saw was around 6,000 layoffs already in the video game industry this month alone.
It makes no sense.
Getting this today was just one more in
it makes no sense to me. All of these companies, if you were to go look at the profit margin of Twitch and Discord and Microsoft even.
Well, I mean, what was the other Microsoft news this week? They're the second $3 trillion company in history.
Right. How I don't understand how you can justify these layoffs when you're making record profits.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. I don't, it's kind of hard for me to be a fan of big tier gaming.
Yeah.
When you got companies like Microsoft doing this. And man.
So, I mean, my read on the Microsoft ones, and Rolls, I think you're right to call this part up, right? That the stock was up. The stock went up again today after the announcement of the layoffs, right? The stocks responded well to those layoffs. And I think some of that has to do, right, with exactly who they were laying off, right? Because they laid off their whole physical disc manufacturing division, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of the big one. Starfield, right? That's kind of the big one.
Well, that news, the idea that this might be happening first, kind of came on people's radar because Walmart was marking all of their copies of Starfield down to 5 cents a copy to try and liquidate that asset because Microsoft's moving away from physical discs, right? Which then, connects to the other news from last week about the Ubisoft guy being gamers need to get used to not owning their games.
That's one that we didn't talk about. Yeah, I want to find that
quote. It's really related to this because now what you have is these layoffs, which obviously hurt tons of people. But then also shareholders respond well to because it means that Microsoft is making a move to be more profitable, right? And in their view, moving away from physical media is that, right? So it's tough. It's tough. It's the kind of thing where it's I'm sure in some boardroom somewhere they made the numbers equal out, right? This is the right decision from a business perspective, but it sucks. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah, Ubisoft director says gamers will get more comfortable not owning games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's what do you say? Cause mild upset, pirate everything from Ubisoft. One response demanded. Yeah, I mean it was just consumers get comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD. That's a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game from another time, your progress file is still there. That's not deleted. He's framing this in a very convenient way. This is also one of the double-edged swords of things like Game Pass. I mean, I've been nothing but I've praised Game Pass.
Yeah, I love Game Pass.
I love Game Pass, but I also don't want those games to go away. I want to still be able to buy my game. And I'm also a big fan of physical media. I love physical media. I love my own carts. I love having a hard copy of the game. But
yeah,
on the flip side is we've talked a lot about it on here as well, where it's pretty common nowadays that a game like, say, Palworld, there's a game that's an ever-changing game. Even if it came out on disc day one, the game that you have on that disc doesn't work a week from now.
Even clearer example of this, Alan Wake 2 didn't get a physical release.
Yeah.
Right? Big AAA games now are just not getting physical releases. And now Alan Wake 2 didn't sell very well, but I don't think that was because of the physical release, right? I think it probably would have sold about the same with a physical release.
Yeah,
And it
because
reminds
it's a
me of
sequel
like,
to a game that like already had a very like
yeah,
you're making it's no different than when you see a movie like a sequel to a movie from like 30 years ago and you're like, why
yeah,
didn't the sequel do very well? I'm like, well, because the fan base has already kind of like been burned by these long time, like these long
sure,
gap sequels.
sure,
And
sure.
second, like sometimes the love isn't there anymore. Like there's just this weird like
Yep. I think what we're seeing is like these executives sort of internet and bandwidth has gotten to the point where they can start thinking about games the way that Spotify thinks about music, right? And they're like, well, people prefer that even if they don't want to. And now owning the music is more of a niche thing, right? Like I have vinyls, like I have a vinyl collection, but that's because I like them. I like the material stuff. I'm not typical in that response. Most people just put a playlist on Spotify and just go, right?
but you're actually what's interesting about that is and that kind of on a take as well is that um there's new stories. The Generation Z and beyond are the ones that are buying these vinyls right now.
Oh yeah, and it's going up for sure, but it's still the percentage though, right? Like
Oh
the
yeah,
economics of it from their perspective, it's all in the streaming. Now,
it
not
is.
the artists don't feel that way.
No, but I
So,
mean, a lot of the small artists are realizing that they're making a lot of good
yeah,
money selling their vinyls and whatnot
okay.
because the younger generation is buying it. Because there is something to say about this generation that in 10 years from now, they're realizing a lot of them are growing up now, like in their teens. They're people that were born in 2010 are now 14 years into their life and they're realizing I don't own anything. Like my dad shows me all of his old games and shows me all of his PS2 games and whatever else, but like I don't have any of that. There's nothing to call my own.
Yeah,
They don't have a movie collection on the shelf. They don't
right.
have they had their dad's movie collection from their DVD days,
Yep.
or maybe some of their Blu-rays. But even then, I mean, the story for this year, for example, is Best Buy. You can't buy physical media from the store anymore. They're pulling
Yeah.
physical media off the shelves. When was the last time you heard of even an album store? When can you buy a CD? Like
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't do it anymore.
Like we got a record store here in Syracuse, and like it's popular. People like it, but it's a niche interest, right? It's a thing that like music nerds go do. It's not a thing that like, um, you know, like anybody that just like listens to top 40 or like goes about their life and listens to music here and there
Yeah,
goes, right? It's an interest. And so, when you're thinking about then all these layoffs, all that's connected in terms of
yeah.
how these big economic models are shifting and how the companies are responding to it, and then how kind of vulnerable a lot of the employees really are. It's been a lot of layoffs already.
Yeah. We have a couple of record stores, but they're like in the thrift store area. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that. I mean, I sad to say it, I hate to say it, but it's like that hipster vibe, right? Like it's got that
Mhm.
like young hipster vibe of like owning trendy, antiquing, vintage. But some of my favorite bands are a lot of these indie bands, and they put out records and albums,
Yeah.
and that's where they kind of get their like eclecticness of it all. And
Yeah.
they put out special editions and glow in the dark vinyls, and also there's something awesome. I mean, if you're a gamer from the PS2 era and I'm saying PS2 because that's I think the last generation that got actual art insert in the game. Like 360 and
Mm,
beyond didn't really get it was just a disc that you didn't get like an instruction manual.
yeah, unless it was like a special edition or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yep.
PS1, maybe PS2, some of them did, not all of them. PS1, almost everything had like an insert, a booklet
Yep.
of some sort. And those days are gone. And so the idea of buying an album, when you buy a vinyl, one of the cool things, right, is you pull that vinyl out, and one, if it's like a special edition or a special pressing, the vinyl itself is already like a cool color or like a special material or glow in the
Yep.
dark or whatever the case may be, or special like holographic label or whatever.
Yeah, it's this like kind of like physical experience, right?
Yeah, and then inside of the big vinyl thing, you get like artwork from the band and lyrics and all of the stuff that I remember seeing growing up. And all of a sudden, that's now a special thing when every album had that back in the day.
Right.
So everything old is new again. And I think these companies are realizing, a lot of the smaller bands are realizing that. So they're catering to that market, but the big companies are driving this like digital only world. And
What's interesting is like, so I've had that same experience about like these indie bands kind of putting out records, also like CDs. People are going back to CDs and cassettes too, sometimes too, in that. But it's also like, especially for like the young, like Gen Z, and younger millennials, K-pop's big. K-pop's physical. K-pop has physical media releases with
Yep.
like cards and like all that stuff. So like internationally, those
all
big
the
concerts,
collector stuff,
that's collecting, right?
yeah.
And that's a big part of it. And I think once music and I think games are similar right now, lost that kind of collectible nature, where it's just an icon on a screen instead of a thing you get to have.
Mhm.
It became a lot easier to separate people from their physical media.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, they brought back cassettes. Yeah, I mean, cassettes are out there. They're back. They're around. They're every small band that I know.
I mean, I've bought some cassettes at shows. I don't have a way to play it.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's the hard part. And I follow a couple of I would never call myself an audiophile in any way, shape, or form. I've got mid-range, higher end stuff. Like my Audio Technicas are what I wear, and I've got a couple of other higher end headphones, and I've got a decent amp and a preamp and whatever, but nothing high enough that I can say, oh, these speakers are like 10 grand a piece or whatever. But I follow Tech Moan on YouTube. I think you've probably heard of him. He's an older guy out of the UK. He tends to talk about vintage, hardware and music and audio and all that kind of stuff. And he likes to review older cassette players and vinyl players and all that. But he does review some of the like new ones that come out of the market. And it's pretty common that he talks about it when he opens it up. He points out exactly, and he's like, yep, here it is. No matter how Kickstarter, we're making new cassette players, whatever, the mechanics on the inside are still the same janky, cheap, Chinese-made heads that suck. They're not very good because that's the only ones that are being manufactured.
I was going to say, because no one's manufacturing high-end
cassette heads anymore. Yeah. So the only way to get a decent cassette player is go hit the thrift shops and find one from 25 years ago. Go get yourself a Sony, a Pioneer, whatever, and clean them out and get them working. And that's the only way you're going to get a good cassette player. But yeah, I mean, there's whole channels dedicated to refurbishing like Walkmans and stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, iPods are now.
iPods are. Well, I was just going to say, like, my job, we have, I've got a few people that are like, under 25 on my team. And one of them, like, she just ordered for like $150, like a 2003 digital camera, just like the point and shoot digital camera. So she can have the aesthetic of that digital camera makes.
It's vintage now.
They're like, oh my God, dude. I'm here. I'm old. I
did it. Just oh God! It's like that's a vintage camera now. It's what is it? It's 20 years old now, man.
Yeah,
it's a 20-year-old camera. 20. Like, could you imagine when you were a kid? Like when you were a kid, anything that you picked up that was 20 years old was from like the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And you were like, this is an old piece of tech 20 years ago. Oh God, what is this? This is old. Now,
I mean, I was also not a cool teenager 20 years ago, so I'm sure like there were cooler teenagers than me picking that stuff and being like, "Oh, that's good."
Well, I mean, that was the beginning of the tech consumerism, right? Like the idea of having like a digital camera and like SD cards. Yeah. I mean, to me, a vintage camera would be like one of the ones that you picked up at the grocery store that were like the disposable ones that you click and then you go and give the whole camera to Walgreens or whatever and have them develop it. But that's vintage. That's vintage to me, but. Vintage to now when you think about it, you're like, an iPod is vintage nowadays.
iPod, give me that Nokia brick. That's vintage.
Man, and so that's the thing, right? So all these layoffs that just happened at Blizzard, Activision, a company that was just acquired by Microsoft, is now they're trimming the fat. And one of the big parts of the fat is like, let's get rid of a lot of these big departments that deal with physical media because we are moving towards a digital age. And like, I don't want to blame Microsoft for this. They are definitely one that are pushing it, but let's be real here. All of them are doing it. I mean, Nintendo is less than all of them because they still have cartridges. They still have cartridges and
we'll see what direction they head with Switch 2. I'll be curious to see if they move away from physical media or if they like stick there.
I mean, with the release of this new flash cart that's coming out soon, the MIG Switch, if you've heard anything about it in the news. So we've got a flash cart officially coming out for the Switch coming soon. That's now a physical piece of tech that can put piracy into anyone's hands. Yeah. And so that's something that Nintendo's going to be like, yeah, man, like maybe we should just get rid of the physical port and we get to control all of it. And I mean, PC gamers have been all digital for years. When's the last time you bought a physical box game at a store? So
I mean, I don't have a disk drive on my computer.
No one has one anymore. And like, unless they're selling USD cards, I can't imagine a way to get games at a store anymore. And then all these games are online patches anyway. So Steam has been the the de facto game store for PC gamers.
Yeah, I mean, Steam's been on the forefront of this, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
So like I don't want to paint Microsoft as the villain here because they're in the news right now, but they're following the trend that is, the writing's on the wall. Like it's already there, and the consumer is already okay with this.
yeah. And unfortunately, it's the labor that gets caught in the middle, right? Like, because I saw some analysis that was saying that this whole thing happening in the industry is sort of an equilibrium from like some expansion post COVID that wasn't really that they expanded too quickly, too fast with like their labor force, and now it's like correcting again or whatever. But all of that still just comes down to like business decisions, right? And people make business decisions, and it costs people their jobs. And it sucks to see in my heart.
The overhiring. Right? I mean, they during COVID, I had a buddy of mine that was hired at Meta. And he's a big sales rep or whatever. He does like big corporate stuff or whatever. And he got hired for this new department, and got an office and was working in Austin and had like full on badge or whatever. Then COVID happened, and then they did the giant what is it? It was like a 4,000 employee layoff at Meta or whatever, and he was one of them to go. It was sad, but it's just like I think the overcorrection. You're right. It seems to be like they did a lot of hiring pre-COVID, during COVID for like a way, and now they're like having to let go of all those people because the direction they're going to is not facilitating that amount of people.
I would
developers
sorry, go ahead.
No, developers just sadly, I hate the fact that developers are getting hit by this brunt this year already.
It sucks. I would say like if you're a person who's interested in video games and tech, which I assume you are if you're watching this show, take some time to follow some of the developers like in your social media space, because you hear a lot of really good stories about like what this stuff feels like on the ground. And it's a good way to stay grounded as a person who enjoys games. Like I think it's so important to not put too much distance between yourself and the people who make the things that you love.
When if your entire gaming news is just reading what IGN puts out and a lot of the big you're missing out some of the like good stuff, especially, and that's where we feel about social media and Twitter and all of the is hard. But I've said it to other people that are against social media. I'm like, social media is awful, but you can shape it to whatever you want if you really try. The algorithm is going to fight you the entire way. Don't get me wrong. Like my feed is constantly full of stuff that I don't want to see, but I'll block it, I'll move it, I'll mute it, and I'll move on. And I'll kind of find a way to restructure my algorithm to kind of get where I'm going. And my algorithm, my structure, my news feed is full of like developers and personal people I know in the industry that do mods and retro and all this kind of stuff, and other YouTubers that talk in the same voice that I feel is positive. And a lot of these developers are actually very active on there. They'll post a lot of their work environment. They'll post a lot of their feelings towards other studios or studios they might have worked at before. And man, it's tough. It's tough seeing this. It's tough to see people get laid off in an industry that is winning. Gaming it's making so much money. There's no reason for anybody to be fired right now, but I don't know how to support your indie developers. That's just the best way to put it.
What else can you say, right? Support your indie developers, amplify the voices that you come across that are like looking for new places to be, that are doing interesting work. I mean, that's kind of all we can do from the sidelines here, but I think it's still important to do.
Yep. So we're about to hit an hour, so we're going to hit the last topic real quick, and this is just kind of an interesting one. We talked a little bit about last week about the launch of the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro, and so this is an interesting story that launched today. And I'm in the developer program for Apple as an old employee, whatever else. So I also get the beta. I mean, anyone can do it nowadays before, but my account is still active for developer. And one of the big things is the first beta for 17.4 came out. And there's a lot of changes in the back end to this particular version of the operating system.
Oh, really?
Which is starting this particular thing, like this next branch. So this is the first version that's got a lot of that built into the back end. And what I'm talking about here is if you haven't been following along, the EU, besides the EU was one of the reasons why Apple kind of moved over to the USB-C right? On the new iPhone, it's mandatory for them to have it. And this one right here is that Apple is bringing side loading and alternate app stores to the iPhone. This is huge.
It's huge
because this means that you can now create your own marketplace and sell apps and install apps on your iPhone. This is not here in the US yet, but it will be launched in the EU very soon. And usually things that happen in the EU will eventually trickle down to the US. All of the privacy things that we've got now happen in the EU first. And that policy it's far easier for someone like Apple to blanket.
You don't want to split your operations.
Yeah, because then you have to split the operations of who's allowed to do what. And you segregate an entire market because you're going to get people in the US going, hey, wait a minute, I want to be able to do this, and now I can't. Well, I'm going to go switch because you're going to get companies and you're going to get angry developers not be able to do this. So if it happens in one country, it has to happen worldwide, but it has to happen in the EU first, mandated. So this is a big one. What this means, so right now, when you create an app on the App Store, it is a 70-30 split. 30% goes to Apple. 70% to the developer. When you create a new app store, the split is different now. There is a different split for smaller developers and big developers. But the way it works is, if I remember correctly here, see if I can find under the new terms, apps distributed through the App Store that choose an alternate payment system will pay a 17% commission rather than the 30% on digital goods and services. This commission rate falls to 10% for any apps that currently qualify for Apple's reduced small business rule. So if you're a small business owner, instead of 17%, it's 10%, and an additional 3% fee that applies for developers that choose to use Apple's processing system. So if it's 17 plus 3, so it's a 20% as opposed to 30% for the big ones, and it'll be 13% for small developers, which is, from 30 to 13, that's not bad. So that's kind of unprecedented for someone. That 3% is the company's also introducing a new type of fee for particular popular apps. The core technology fee will charge developers around 50, a half a pound, basically about 54 cents per annual app install. However, the fee only kicks in after 1 million annual installs.
Interesting. Okay.
It's an interesting take on how that's going to work. But basically, if you install from not the App Store, you're going to have to trade for the first install. It'll be 54 cents per app. That you'll be charged for the first install after 1 million installs.
Isn't that like similar to the pricing model that got Unity in hot water last year?
A little bit.
I remember that. That sounded really familiar to me. That's interesting. Okay.
It's similar in its reach, but it's not retroactive,
right?
Because you are choosing to use a different store. If you don't want that, you could pay the 30% that you already doing.
Okay.
But instead, you're going to pay this fee plus, and you're going to be able to get up to 13 to 20%. So no longer paying 30%, which can be a big chunk depending on what type of developer you are.
Right.
Another big one is this one right here. NFC is being opened up. So that's a big one too. With the opening of third-party stores, that also means that your iPhone, for example, which right now you can only use Apple Pay to pay.
Right.
You can now, for example, open up Venmo.
Right.
And Venmo will then be able to talk to the NFC reader in there. And when you beep your phone, it will charge your Venmo as opposed to charging the Apple Pay
code or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And so at first the NFC was locked down for that particular reason. Now it'll be open up. And I think this one is going to happen globally. So this one is not, one is not EU.
Yeah, that would make sense for that to be globally. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's a big one. But I mean, this is big deal for Apple, because this is something that is almost a core value and a core reason why people choose or not choose Apple, right? A lot of people like the choice of staying with Apple. Like, you don't have to use another app store, but you now can. And some people don't like the idea of having third-party stores because you never know what's happening in the back end. That's kind of the security side of Apple.
Like some people want the walled garden. Yeah,
they want the walled garden because they know that the app that they get from the App Store isn't nefarious. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but Apple's always been very quick about pulling.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's not low quality sometimes, but like it's not the Android store.
Yeah, and the Android store. I mean, if you're familiar, just type in Netflix on the Android store, and you're going to get like 100 different applications that have the Netflix-like application, and the names are similar, and because they're wanting you to install this app, whether it's Netflix or not.
So rules. I think most of these are responses to like the EU, right? Like not all of them are direct requirements that the
Yeah.
EU put on them, but like there was a suite of things that the EU was doing that Apple needed to respond to, and these features represent a lot of that response.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword here. It's like they put this rule in play, and they're like, well, the only way we can really meet that is if we do this, but we're going to do it, and we're going to make sure that we do it the best Apple way possible. We're lowering the fee, but we'll still get our cut. Apple will still get its cut no matter what, because you're still using their code and their access to their like development and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be like a fee. It won't be 100% free for anybody. There's no way for you not to pay Apple some money.
Yeah,
but it will mean that you'll be able to install an Apple. You'll be able to have like the Amazon App Store, and you'll be able to publish your app through the Amazon store, which will give you a bigger cut because that is a big store. So that would mean that you would pay 20 as opposed to 30%.
Yep.
But after 1 million installs, you'll then have to pay a fee to Apple directly.
So I mean, I think in general, this is like good news for small creators. Having more avenues to get your material out there, whether it's like books or
choice is always good.
Or that kind of thing. I think that's good news for them. Personally, I know I'm excited to get a game streaming like app on iOS instead of having to go through a browser, that kind of thing. That's
a perfect example. One of the ones that one of the big openings here as well is because they're allowing alternate stores and whatever else. A PlayStation and Xbox both can put their streaming apps on there, which means that you can now install a native like Game Pass app and play streaming Game Pass games right on your phone, as opposed to having to do the workaround, which is open up Safari and go to the game streaming website and then log in that route, which means that you're using Safari and you're tied to like the API that is Safari versus having an app that can do it. So less overhead, which is good for people like Microsoft and Sony. So I expect to see Fortnite back in the store before the end of the year. It'll be a big deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, we're going to see Fortnite back on Apple devices soon. It'll be under their own Epic launcher, whatever else. And I think with them, the Apple tax will be smaller for them. It'll be the 20% versus 30%, and then they'll be able to still kind of control the information feed, right? Yeah. Because everything's still going to be going through their servers. So I don't know how this is going to go, but it's choice. It's good. But people will say, how Apple finally is doing this. But like on the flip side, you have to understand that like, go buy a modern Android phone right now, and you'll see how much Google has really reined in that freedom that they used to give.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's more of a walled garden than it used to be.
Yeah, and it's because they're realizing that, like, yo, man, like, we need to be able to kind of rein in and control some of the security and some of these features and the fragmentation and all of that. There is a reason why the walled garden is so shiny and green on the other side of the pasture for people that switch from Android to Apple, because once they flip over, they're like, wait, I get actual updates. Like I didn't buy a phone. You mean this model phone is being supported for 5 years as opposed to like 2, and then all of a sudden they move on, or be someone like LG who put out really good phones and then they disappeared because they no longer make phones. So that's the hard part. Or Samsung, who releases a phone every 3 months and like they move on to the next best thing and then don't like support their device after a few months. They've gotten better, but like you have to wait for security updates. Google will put out a security update, and then you have to wait for Samsung to clear that security update and then push it through their servers before it goes to your Samsung phone.
Right.
So I don't know, man. It's a whole new world, whole new change. And again, digital.
I'm kind of glad some of those big changes are happening in the EU first, and we can see what they do to the ecosystem before they hit here. I'll be keeping an eye on that too.
Yeah. It's interesting how this is going to go, and I'm excited for some of the changes. I'm excited for the game stream, and I'm excited for the NFC payment. I would like the idea to be able to like, sometimes someone pays me with Venmo, and I'm like, oh man, the only way to use that as like a NFC payment, like a store, would be that I would have to send the money from my Venmo account to my bank account, which if I want it instant, I have to pay a fee, and then once it's on my bank account, then I can use Apple Pay, which is tied to my bank account card, to be able to pay. So that's kind of the workaround that you have to do. But now all of these forms of payment like Cash App and Venmo and PayPal and you name it will all have a way to tie in and use that NFC on their device. So you could pay right directly. So what's going on, Team Pandori?
Hey, Pandori.
Well, yeah, you hop on, and we're actually about to end the show.
That's right at the end here, bud.
Right at the end, buddy. I apologize that But yeah, what are you playing right now, man? As we go, what are you
Oh boy,
putting the
a
hours
lot.
in?
I was just saying on Threads the other day that I've kind of moved past the idea of a game backlog, and I'm just in a game rotation now. I just have constant games kind of cycling through. So I played about I haven't played it on my back all show. I've been playing a lot of Octopath Traveler 2 the past week, which I've been really enjoying. And then what else have I been doing? Oh, I started playing Resident Evil 2 because that's on the Game Pass now. I never played
Oh
it.
yeah, I just recently saw that.
And so
if you guys want to follow Jordan, he's playing the binaries.
Yeah, hit me up there. I'm always chatting with somebody on there. And honestly, right now, guys, the vibes on Threads are nice for like kind of gamer community and all that.
Yeah, it's definitely our page is up and active, and we've got some good followers, and there seems to be very pretty active when the gaming aspect of Threads is very easy to kind of like hit. Developers are hopping on there and
very friendly too. There's a lot less toxicity than I'm used to over on the other side.
Yes, they do have updates. Yahweh and Xiaoming do have updates, but there's reasons.
Yahweh is a different story.
Yahweh, wrong. It sounds so similar. Yahweh.
It is very close.
Very close. Yes, it is a good phone, but I guess the best way to put it is there are reasons why those phones aren't sold in the U.S.
Oh, wow. So Pandora, you got on here, heard we were about to log off, and you decided to pick this fight with Joe.
Drop this bomb. What is it? No, we're
another half hour.
There's reasons why they don't do it. There's a lot of I'm not gonna call it spyware, but there's definitely a lot of data being routed through Xiaomi's servers that people in the US aren't very comfortable with. So no, yeah, I know, right? So that's one of the reasons why, and it's one of the reasons. I mean, don't get me wrong. What's really great about those phones, every time I see MKBHD do like a review on
it's good hardware, very cool.
Great hardware. I mean, I'm always a fan of like that pushing the limit of what you can do. Like they're always the first ones to do like under the screen a fingerprint reader and like fold-em phones. They did it before Samsung did, and there was this really cool phone about a year or 2-3 years ago where they went to the full panel phone.
Oh yeah,
and then they didn't have room for the camera, so they were one of the first ones to do the camera behind the OLED screen so that it would like some of the pixels would turn off and then the camera would come through. And then they also had the one where it had the motorized camera that would zip up. It was like zip, it'd pop up when you take a picture and pop down.
I remember that too. Yeah.
And we don't have, none of the phones have that. Like
none of that fun stuff's around anymore.
It's not because they, mechanically it would break and whatever else, but I always appreciated the idea of them kind of pushing that like future tech in a way. And
dude, this is awesome news. Extremely exciting. Pandora doing full-time online. Congratulations.
Yeah, man. If anyone is familiar, go follow Team Pandora on YouTube. He's got a great channel. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Checking out some of his videos since he hopped on a couple shows ago. It's
good what's interesting is he's recently been doing a lot of I got to get up there, man. I got to pump out the content like you, so I can get some of this stuff to be able to review. But Team Pandora has been doing a lot of these videos on the mini PCs, and what's interesting is I recently just picked up one.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to pull up his page here. So Team Pandora, but I recently just picked up which one? I want to say it was the G4, it was the GMK Tech G4.
Okay.
And it's got the Ryzen 7840 like he's got right here. So go check it out. So this is the K6 that he did a review on recently. So go check it out. But I mean, if you're not familiar with these machines and what he's talking about here is these are little small PCs that are being developed. They're little small full-on computers. Made multiple companies out there. Here, let me pull up the
tons of applications for them.
Yeah. So here we go. So these are full computers. They're the price tag on these things is $700 for this one because this is one of the higher end ones, but different specs and whatever. These are for $700. You're getting a machine that's got 32 gigs of memory, 512 gig SSD, a very powerful CPU, a Ryzen 7. That clocks at like 5.1, 5.2 gigahertz, and the 780M Ryzen, which can play most games at 1080p just fine. So these are fantastic, fantastic different machines, and he does lots of reviews and does a lot of gameplay footage and shows the benchmarks and whatever else. So go check him out. But yeah, I just picked one of them up recently, and I need to crank out some content for that too. U.S. companies who spy over Menace say, yeah. Oh no, well of course, yeah. That means you spy on us, we spy on you. You know, that's the way it works, man. No, totally. You're not wrong. Depending on the piece of software you installed, for sure. But go check them out. But thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next week. What am I playing? So, you said, you were playing.
Yeah. What are you up to?
Man, I am, like I said, I just started playing Palworld. I recently, I reinstalled Dead Cells again. I really got into this. Nice. I wanted to play Dead Cells again, and I reinstalled this because I wanted to go through some of the things. So I started from scratch. I wiped my save file.
Okay.
And I think I did like 3 runs in a row. It was just kind of like I sat down one day. I got off of work, and I'm on call this week, so I just like went through and just like put in like 5 hours, 6 hours, and I think I was doing like an hour and a half per run.
Wow.
Just cranking them through, and it was fun. I realized, but because you're starting over, plus you've got all the DLC. There's all sorts of like new weapons in the game. And I didn't realize. I guess I hadn't played it in a while, but I didn't realize that the company had put in so many Easter eggs from other games that they love. So there are call outs and nods to like Dead Soul, Dead Souls and Half-Life and like
Hollow Knight.
And so there's weapons that are inspired. Like there's the needle sword from and one of the items is like the crowbar. And what cool things about the crowbar is that it's got tons of stats on it, but you pick it up, and one of the stats that's always on it is you'll get a critical hit if you break a door with it beforehand. So you break a door and then hit an enemy, and it just like gives you all these stat bonuses. So like I actually did one run with like a really ramped up like high level crowbar, and it's just there's like head crabs in the game, but like there is no Half-Life DLC. It's just like the love for the game has like these little like nods. So and then there's a whole Castlevania DLC that I wanted to play.
I saw that.
I haven't made it that far into it, but
Dead Cells is great, man. That's a good game to always go back to.
Cool, man. I'll check out the coupons. Yeah, so there are coupon codes. Check the coupon codes for any of these PCs. If you're in the market to pick up you're looking for like a new PC, but you don't want to like build one or whatever. These little mini PCs are great. If you're not like a big gamer or build a PC, but you just want something small footprint, they're great. I'm testing one right now. It's hooked up to my living room, and I installed Steam on it, and that's what I was playing Dead Cells on. Actually, I was playing it on my TV and on that little mini PC. So
cool.
So go check them out. Thanks for joining us, everyone that's on the show. Anything you want to recommend for anybody to watch or do anything over the weekend?
I'll say this. I started watching on Netflix Delicious in Dungeon. If you're into anime at all and you are
I haven't watched it.
That is both really wholesome and earnest and extremely unhinged. Check out Delicious in Dungeon.
If you're into like the vibe that Palworld is giving you, this show is awesome. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's a D&D anime dungeon crawler-esque game, but you go in and you fight. Like let's say you're playing a Final Fantasy game and like the monsters look like scorpions or whatever. They got like a name.
Finding the gourmet in the
gourmet and the monsters. So they're like go in and fight these venomous like scorpions, and they're like, oh, and then they're like cutting up the pieces, and then they make like a dish and they cook with it, and you're like, what is happening right now? And
but the first episode was very sweet, very fun. I'm gonna watch more of it, so I recommend you check it out if that sounds interesting to you.
Yeah, go listen to the show earlier. We were just talking about this exact topic, man. Like the kids love these games and the content on it. So they love it because it's constant change. It's that flashy light on a constant basis. But newer Tomb Raiders games, the remasters are coming out next week, so these systems will be able to play them. So, but yeah, folks, thank you so much, everyone. 25th anniversary of Sopranos just started a rewatch. 25 years of The Sopranos, my God.
All right,
hold on. I'm more gray.
I was going to say, time to go to bed and die.
Woke up this morning, That's Gabagoo. Yes, we are, folks. Thank you so much for spending your Friday Eve with us. And again, I will put it up this way. I will. What is it? We'll bring that up real quick just so that people can see. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us on Thursday. Go like, subscribe, go follow us on Twitch. Tell us what you want more on the content. Jordan will be doing some game streaming this week, more than I will, because he's got more will to do it. But we're fixing that right now on Twitch to be able to get him logged in. We're trying to figure it out because we're sharing the channel and we're trying to figure out how to give him credentials, but like two-factor authentications on my end. So there's got to be a way to add a team member. This app that we use, StreamYard, has that. So it allowed me to just add him as a team member, but I don't know how to do it with Twitch.
We'll give it a shot. We'll figure it out. It's gonna be soon. It'll be soon. Maybe we'll. I was thinking about maybe trying out the new Like a Dragon, since we've been talking about it.
Yes, try it, stream it. Tell me when you're going to do it. Everyone here will love watching that.
Cool.
Thanks, all right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. Be kind. Another episode is in the can. Be good, everyone. Have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend.